Carrie Lee Merritt, here today with another episode of Meritocracy. And today I've got with me Tim Vandenhoff, who's joining us from the Netherlands. Now, Tim is a filmmaker, a producer, and a director of multiple films, but he's here today to talk with us specifically about Monumental Crossroads. So thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us just a little bit about your background. What brought you into filmmaking as a profession? How did you get interested in it?
I've always wanted to become a filmmaker, and during my studies in philosophy, I had the opportunity to start working for the Dutch National Public Broadcaster, VPRO, and that's where I got my fascination for documentary film. It started there on a show I was doing. And after a few years, after graduating from university also, after finishing philosophy, I started out on my own. A lot of hard work, but I managed to get to a place where I could actually make a living making my own documentary films. I sort of became a producer by necessity, just trying to make my own chances and, create my own projects. And it's good to know both, to be a director and a producer, so that you actually know what goes into it. But I like to have somebody with me for the business side of things on some projects, so I can, focus more on the filmmaking or the direction part of things. But yeah, it's brought me to a lot of different places and stories over the years. So I'm very happy to be at this point right now.
So as people can probably tell from your accent, you're not from America, obviously, you're over in the Netherlands. So how did you grow up knowing anything about the American Civil War or slavery in America? What did you grow up knowing about this?
Well, not much to begin with. I mean, I think here is just one line in the history book: Civil War, American Civil War was fought about slavery, and that's it, which is a gross oversimplification, of course. And so I didn't know much about it, but I had to sort of dive into it when I started researching for this film. And, the Confederate monument removal, it automatically, of course, leads you back to the days of the Civil War. Why are these monuments erected in the first place? What went on that, put these people on a pedestal? So I had been researching for a while before going to the American South to follow the monument removal starting in New Orleans and going all the way up to Charlottesville, the protests, and basically a lot of places in between. And I had been to the US a couple of times and to the South as well, but I had never been there looking through the lens of the long legacy of slavery. That really made a huge impact on my understanding of American history, and also trying to converse with people like the executive commander of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, trying to dispel lost cause mythology. It's an exercise in Civil War history that you wouldn't get in the Netherlands. Let me put it that way.
For people that don't know, what brought you to this topic originally? How did it come to be a subject for a film for you?
Well, I mean, we have our own issues to deal with in the Netherlands when it comes to our own colonial past and our history of slavery. In some ways we are starting to have these conversations. One of the things that has been discussed mostly in recent years is our weird blackface tradition of Black Pete, which is part of the Dutch version of Sinterklaas, called Sinterklaas. And instead of little helpers like elves that you have, he has freed slaves, basically. And according to the legend, they were grateful for his support, releasing them, and they just stuck with the guy. But of course, this all has this huge aura of the old colonial days and inequality and oppression. And so in recent decades, that's become really an issue. Even UN personnel, high up staff, actually writing letters to the Dutch government, or making an appeal to the Dutch people, like stop this thing. It's it's 2020. This has no place in today's culture anymore. But people want to hold on to their traditions, and it's a very tiresome kind of discussion. Also, similarly to, for example, these Confederate monuments, where you get, you have the heritage, not hate kind of slogans. And of course, here it's an innocent children's party, and you shouldn't mess with that. It's for the kids. Well, the kids don't mind as long as they get presents. Pete could be black or white or blue or purple, as long as the presents are there.
Right.
So, to cut a long story short, I think that's a very interesting topic. How do you deal with these traditions in a changing society? Who gets to say what's what we revere or celebrate? How do you have that conversation? But I never really wanted to do anything about this Sinterklaas and Black Pete situation specifically. And then I saw a picture in a Dutch newspaper about of the Confederate monument removal in New Orleans, specifically
Robert E. Lee, the famous Robert E. Lee statue, and then
that was still standing. Actually, I think was the Beauregard one.
Right.
And,
okay.
So it was, or even one of the other ones, and it was under the cover of darkness, and city workers wearing flak vests trying to, remove that statue as quickly as they could, while they were being assailed by two groups of protesters. One side there were the Black Lives Matter people, on the other side people with AR-15 rifles, and I just kept looking at that picture, thinking, how do you get to this place? How does it get this bad, and how do you move beyond it also? So I figured I want to go there and follow this story as it's developing, because maybe this is also telling us something back home about how we deal with these kind of stories. But in America, everything is always bigger and better, and this felt like a good story to tell us something about us.
Well, that's one of the things I liked about the film, is that coming from someone from outside the United States, it does give kind of an added layer of objectivism, that you are hopefully as objective as possible in telling the story. And even being that objective, I think it still makes it very clear what the answer should be to what we should do with these monuments. Did you feel like coming in as an outsider made the people that you interviewed more willing to talk to you? Were they able to trust you more?
Yes, definitely. Being from Europe, being an outsider, definitely played into our advantage. They thought we were sort of the uninitiated, unknowing people, that they could, they had a clean slate. You can start the story afresh. We weren't entrenched in our positions already, so it felt like they felt they had a sort of a new chance, to get out the story right, according to their perspective. And but they didn't know that I came very well prepared too, because I knew I would be getting into a lot of trouble if I didn't know all the clever ways in which facts and, little bits of information get appropriated and resculpted into these narratives that, are very far from the truth. And of course, I don't want to give a platform to lost cause mythology. I do want to be on top of that story. So I had very interesting, sometimes 3-hour long interviews with these people, but still coming from an honest position of wanting to understand where they were coming from. I guess they thought it would be a film in Europe, so they wouldn't care as much anyway. It wouldn't be on TV or in America or American people watching it. But that so happens to be the prime audience for this film anyway. So
right. I think it's going to do really well in American colleges, universities, and even in high school classes, especially given that it's being released right now in this summer. I mean, the summer that we've never seen, political action in America since, of course, the civil rights movement in the mid 1960s. I mean, as these Confederate monuments continue to fall all around America, we're seeing the same thing starting to happen in Europe as well. As I say all the time, that we have to understand this as a broader class-based movement. It's not just against slaveholders, but it's about any kind of super rich elite whites who were some kind of colonialist powers. So we see that in Europe. Can you give Americans an idea of what that movement really looks like across Europe right now? And are they starting to target pretty much all statues of kings, queens, everyone?
It's spreading around for sure. And you've seen the images in the UK of that slaveholder being thrown into the river. We have been actually shooting some scenes in the Netherlands with monument protests for a new film we're doing. And in Belgium, it was the statue of King Leopold II, who was the owner of the colony of Congo back in the day, where he committed a lot of atrocities. That has been now removed, that statue. In the Netherlands, we have protests, heated debates, some defacing, but not yet monument removal. In Europe, we tend to look to the US, but in a way, like Baldwin said, you are a product of us. So it's we came first, and we already had our own stuff going on when it comes to colonialism, of course. And so it's weird that we actually take a cue from the protests in America to start looking at our own past.